My name is Uli Bismayer. I'm from the University of Hamburg in Germany and from an institute which works on crystallography and mineral sciences. And in addition, we have built a beamline at the synchrotron Petra 3 in Hamburg, which is one of the most interesting synchrotrons because it has more than 35 beamlines. It's a very modern one and it will be extended in a few years to higher energies even. In addition, we have the free electron laser system there for very fast imaging processes. And I came here in order to collaborate with these two scientists from the Thai synchrotron here in Nakhon Ratchasima. And I'm very much impressed by the advanced system here, which works very well. The work concerns samples from Ban Chiang, from northeast Thailand. And these are ancient samples. One is about 1,700 years old, with some paintings on the surface. The paintings are in red color. And the material is interesting. This is a typical mineral color. Hematite is the main composition. And the second sample is about 1,000 years older, which is yellowish at the surface. And the third sample is a very old sample, also from Ban Chiang, about 4,000 years old, which has no color at the surface, which is black in total, which means that it has been fired at very high temperatures. And we study the chemical composition, the treatment during the procedure, the preparation procedure, and especially the surface, because the surface is interesting as it was handmade and partially colored, partially treated mechanically. That is the most interesting information we try to get. And the Ban Chiang is important because it has some very special colors and patterns to be recognized in such a way that people try to find out whether this painting was a sort of information. Is it an information transfer? Was it a precursor of language? And what does it mean, this color and the pattern? That's a big question we try to solve. Yes, of course. The synchrotron is important to look inside of the samples. You cannot, when you look from the outside, you see the surface, but you don't see what is inside the body. And with this synchrotron, you can go deeper and deeper in the bulk of the material and see what is inside and how it changes the structure, the topology, the microtomography, for instance. That's the beamline we are using. And this is very important to understand the texture and the production procedure of these samples. So this is the first time I'm here in Nakhon Ratchasima at all. And we used laboratory facilities like infrared spectroscopy, Raman spectroscopy, optical microscopy, thin sections, and so on. So all these laboratory things was done in Hamburg, in my university, but the synchrotron is here, and this is the advantage to have the microtomography beamline here. I think Thailand is also interested in getting the information about its own history, its own culture, and such important places like Ban Chiang. It's a World Heritage place, a World Heritage site, which is really one of the outstanding sites all over the world. Well, there is certainly some mystery because we don't know how people 4,000 years ago lived and how they communicated and how they made their products by hand. And there are some very interesting other questions because the surface pattern of the very old ceramics. They are very typical for that period, and you can find the same pattern on other continents, in the center of Africa, in North America, in Europe. It's called bend structure pattern. There are some lines on the surface, and at that time people did the same, and nobody knows how they communicated over 20,000 kilometers distances. This is very interesting. So that's certainly a mystery. I don't know how they did it. The Americans started to work on samples from Banqiang. After the Vietnam War, there were many Americans stayed there, and they got married with Thai women. And they found some Banqiangs, they found samples on the ground in a wat near Banqiang. It was about 500 meters outside the city, the village. It's a small village. And now this temple was moved to the city, not to the center, but to the side of the city. And there is this excavation site where they've found in different layers, in different deep layers and higher layers, different ceramics. So the Americans started with this, and many samples were investigated at the Penn State University, Pennsylvania. And over the period from 1990 until now, 30 years, more than 30 years, maybe 100 scientists worked on it, not so many. Because in the beginning it was more as an archaeological investigation of the site itself. And they looked in which layer did they find what kind of samples. There are also bones of people in the earth. And they did some, and later when the techniques were became more developed, they studied the age of the samples. It was not clear how old the samples are. In the beginning it was an estimation. You get much more information about the Thai history and about in general, of course, for everybody, how people lived in that periods of time and in the different centuries, and how developed the people were at that time, because it's a very developed technique to produce such complicated ceramics. I think it's important for Thailand to know how the history in long terms was at that time.